Right now, there are millions of Americans in their 60s who are about to retire with less than 1 year of expenses saved. Not because they didn't work hard, not because they didn't try, but because of a handful of quiet, invisible mistakes that nobody warned them about until it was too late. Here's the number that should scare you. The average American between the ages of 55 and 64 has less than $200,000 saved for retirement. That might sound like a lot. It's not. At a normal withdrawal rate, that turns into less than $800 a month. Social Security might add another $1,800. That's it. That's the retirement most Americans are heading toward. And the scary part is, most of them don't find out until they're already there. By the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why this happens, the specific decisions that quietly drain decades of financial security, and more importantly, the simple shifts that separate the people who retire comfortably from the people who don't. Because the truth is, this isn't really about income. Some of the people with the biggest retirement accounts never made six figures. And some of the highest earners in the country are going to retire broke. Stick around, because the ending of this video reveals the one habit that matters more than your salary, your job title, or even how much you make. Let's start with the first reason. It's the one nobody talks about, because it doesn't feel like a mistake while it's happening. Lifestyle creep. Here's how it works. You get a raise. Maybe it's $4,000 a year. And almost immediately, your life expands to match it. A slightly nicer apartment, a newer car, more dinners out. None of these decisions feel reckless in the moment. Each one feels earned. But here's the hidden truth. Your ability to save doesn't come from how much you earn. It comes from the gap between what you earn and what you spend. And when your spending rises at the same speed as your income, that gap never grows. You can double your salary over 20 years and still end up with nothing, because your expenses doubled right alongside it. This is why so many doctors, lawyers, and successful professionals retire with surprisingly little. They were never taught to protect the gap. They were only taught to chase the income. The lesson here is simple, but it's not easy. Every time your income goes up, treat part of that increase as if it doesn't exist. Automatically move it into savings before you ever see it in your checking account. Most people don't realize that this one habit, done consistently, is worth more than almost any investment strategy. But this is where things get interesting, because lifestyle creep isn't even the biggest problem. It's just the most visible one. The second reason is far more dangerous, because it's invisible for decades before it shows up. It's called the cost of waiting. Let's say two people, both 25 years old, decide to save for retirement. The first person starts immediately. She puts away $300 a month for 10 years, then stops completely. She never adds another dollar after age 35. The second person waits. He doesn't start until he's 35. But once he starts, he's disciplined. He also puts away $300 a month, and he keeps doing it every single year until he retires at 65. Here's the part that surprises almost everyone. Assuming an average return of 7%, which is roughly what the stock market has historically returned over long periods, the first woman, who only invested for 10 years, ends up with more money than the man who invested for 30 years straight. That's the power and the danger of compound growth. Money that's invested early doesn't just grow. It grows on top of its own growth, year after year, decade after decade. The first 10 years of investing are worth more than the last 20 combined. This is why so many Americans in their 40s and 50s feel a sense of panic when they finally start paying attention to retirement. They're not behind because they didn't save enough money. They're behind because they lost the one resource that can never be replaced: time. The hidden truth here isn't complicated. It's uncomfortable. Every year you delay is not a small loss. It's the most expensive year you will ever skip. But this raises an obvious question. If starting early is so powerful, why don't more people do it? The biggest mistake comes next, and it explains almost everything. Most Americans don't fail at retirement because they lack information. They fail because of a psychological trap called present bias. Our brains are wired to overvalue immediate rewards and undervalue future ones. A dollar spent today feels real. A dollar saved for a version of yourself that's 30 years away feels almost imaginary. This is why so many people can explain, in perfect detail, why saving for retirement matters and still not do it. It's not a knowledge problem. It's a wiring problem. Marketers understand this better than most financial advisors do. That's why subscriptions, financing plans, and buy now, pay later options are everywhere. They're designed to make spending feel weightless today, while pushing the real cost into a future that feels distant and unreal. Meanwhile, retirement savings asks you to do the opposite. It asks you to feel a cost today for a reward you won't experience for decades. That's a hard trade for any human brain to make voluntarily, which is exactly why the people who succeed at it usually aren't relying on willpower at all. They've removed the decision entirely. This brings us to the third major reason so many Americans retire without enough. It's not a lack of discipline. It's a lack of systems. Here's an example that puts this into perspective. Two coworkers, same job, same salary. One of them sets up an automatic transfer the day she gets hired. 10% of every paycheck moved straight into a retirement account before she ever sees it. The other coworker means to start saving once things settle down. Life happens. A car repair here, a vacation there. 10 years pass, and he still hasn't started, not because he doesn't care, but because saving was never automatic, so it kept losing to whatever felt urgent that week. This is one of the most important lessons in personal finance, and it's rarely stated this directly. Willpower is unreliable. Systems are not. The people who build real retirement security almost never rely on remembering to save. They build a structure where saving happens whether they think about it or not. Automatic contributions. Automatic increases. Money moved before it can be spent. However, there is one problem nobody talks about when it comes to retirement accounts, and it trips up even people who are doing everything else right. Employer matching. Many companies in the United States offer what's called a 401k match. If you contribute a certain percentage of your paycheck, your employer will match part of it, essentially giving you free money on top of your own contributions. And yet, according to financial industry research, a significant portion of eligible employees don't contribute enough to get the full match. Some contribute nothing at all. Think about what that actually means. It means people are walking away from money their employer is offering them, no strings attached, simply because they never adjusted one number in a benefits portal. This isn't a small oversight. Over a 30-year career, missing an employer match can mean leaving tens of thousands of dollars unclaimed. Money that was never a risk. Money that was just sitting there, waiting to be collected. If there's one immediate action to take after watching this video, it's this. Check whether your employer offers a match and confirm you're contributing enough to get every dollar of it. It's one of the only true guarantees in personal finance. Now let's talk about a mistake that hides inside good intentions. Being too cautious. It sounds strange, but being overly conservative with your investments can be just as damaging as not saving at all. Many Americans, especially after living through market crashes in 2008 or 2020, become afraid of the stock market. So they keep their retirement savings in cash or in extremely conservative accounts that barely keep pace with inflation. Here's the hidden truth. Inflation is quiet, but it's relentless. If your money is earning less than the rate of inflation, you are losing purchasing power every single year, even though your account balance looks the same or slightly higher. Historically, a diversified stock market investment has significantly outpaced inflation over long periods, even accounting for crashes and recessions. Cash, by comparison, has almost never kept up. This doesn't mean taking reckless risks. It means understanding that for money you won't touch for 20 or 30 years, playing it safe by avoiding the market entirely is often the riskier choice, not the safer one. Real risk in retirement planning isn't market volatility. It's running out of money at 80 years old. Most people don't realize that the goal isn't to avoid risk completely. It's to match the right amount of risk to the right amount of time. Now, let's bring this back to something deeply human, because retirement isn't really a math problem. It's an emotional one. Think about someone working a job they've had for 25 years. They've built a life around a schedule, an identity, a sense of purpose tied to what they do every day. Retirement isn't just a financial transition for people like this. It's an identity transition. And that emotional weight is part of why so many people avoid thinking about it altogether. Planning for retirement means confronting the fact that a chapter of life will eventually end. This is why the earlier you start planning, not just saving, but actually thinking about what retirement will look like, the less overwhelming that transition becomes. It stops being an abstract fear and starts being a plan you're already executing. So let's bring everything together, because by now, the picture should be clear. Most Americans don't retire without enough money because they're irresponsible. They retire without enough because of a series of quiet, understandable, deeply human patterns. Lifestyle expanding to match income. The invisible cost of waiting to start. A brain that's wired to value today over tomorrow. A lack of automated systems. Unclaimed employer matches sitting untouched. And fear disguised as caution, quietly eroding value through inflation. None of these mistakes feel dramatic in the moment. That's exactly why they're so dangerous. There's no single decision that ruins someone's retirement. It's the accumulation of small, invisible choices repeated for 30 years. But here's the powerful part. Every single one of these patterns can be reversed, starting today, regardless of your age or income. If you're in your 20s or 30s, your biggest advantage is time. Even small, consistent contributions will benefit from decades of compound growth. Start now, even if it's a small amount. The version of you at 65 will never regret it. If you're in your 40s or 50s, the message isn't panic. It's urgency paired with strategy. You may not have 30 years left to invest, but you likely have 15 or 20, which is still enough time for meaningful growth, especially if you increase your savings rate and make sure you're capturing every dollar of employer matching available to you. And if you're already close to retirement, the priority shifts. It becomes about protecting what you've built, understanding how much you can safely withdraw each year, and making sure your money lasts as long as you do. Here's the final thought I want to leave you with. Retirement security was never really about how much money you make. It's about the systems you build, the habits you automate, and the years you refuse to waste. The people who retire comfortably aren't necessarily the smartest investors or the highest earners. They're the ones who made saving automatic, started earlier than felt comfortable, and stayed consistent even when the results were invisible for years at a time. The best time to fix this was years ago. The second best time is today. If this video helped you understand where the gaps are in your own plan, that's exactly what it was made for. Subscribe for more videos about money, investing, and building wealth.